Now, let us consider one more parameter of antenna, that is directive gain. Directive gain can be in theta direction, then we are calling it as a d theta, or if it is in the phi directions, then we are calling it as d phi. Now, so this is the radiation pattern of an antenna in the theta plane, and this is the radiation pattern of an antenna in the phi plane. And here, so whatever the UM is specified, it is a maximum radiation intensity in the theta plane, that is vertical directions, and this is the maximum radiation intensity in the phi plane or in the horizontal plane. Directive gain can be defined as radiation intensity in the required directions divided by intensity of the isotropic antenna feeding the same power. Now, if u theta and u phi are the radiation intensity in the theta and the phi directions, then d theta, directive gain in the theta direction, equal to u theta divided by u 0, and the directive gain in the phi direction is u phi divided by u 0, where this u theta and u phi are the radiation intensity in the vertical plane and the horizontal plane, and u 0 is the intensity of the isotropic antenna feeding the same power. Then let us try to find the relation between the directivity and the beam width. Now, so this is the radiation pattern of your antenna in the theta plane, then this is the radiation intensity of your antenna in the horizontal planes. And this is the maximum radiation intensity, and this is the maximum radiation intensity, and this is the angle in the vertical directions, and this is the angle in the horizontal directions. Because your antenna is simultaneously radiating in both vertical direction and in the horizontal directions, then the total solid angle will be equal to theta phi. And if um is the radiation intensity, then the total power radiated is W equal to um into theta comma phi. So let us call it as equation number 1. Now, the directivity D is equal to UM divided by U0, that is maximum radiation intensity to the average radiation intensity. So, this is equal to 4 pi UM divided by 4 pi U0, and we know that 4 pi U0 is equal to W. So, that is nothing but the power radiated by the isotropic antenna. Now, substitute the equation number 1, equation number 2. Then, so the directivity equal to 4 pi UM, whatever 4 pi U0 is there, you replace it by W. Then it becomes 4 pi UM divided by W. And because this W is equal to UM into theta phi, where this theta phi is the solid angles, and this UM and UM will get cancelled, then you left with 4 pi divided by theta comma phi. Then beam area equal to total solid angle, so that is equal to theta comma phi, so call it as equation number 3. Now, so this beam area is equal to 4 pi divided by D measured in square radians, and you can convert this radian into degrees, then it becomes 41,543 divided by D square degrees. Then for uniform radiation in both the planes, we have the two planes, one is the theta plane and another one is the phi plane, or the vertical plane or the horizontal planes. There we are expecting that a uniform radiation. If that is the case, then theta equal to phi, and hence we know that theta equal to phi, and this you can write it as root of 4 pi by D radians, call it as equation number 4. Practically the directivity can be obtained from the equation D is equal to 4 pi divided by theta dash into phi dash, where this theta dash and phi dash are the half power beam width, and this is expressed in the radians. Now, let us consider one more term, that is the directivity and the resolutions. So there is a relation is existing between the directivity and the resolutions. And this resolution is defined as half power beamwidth between the first nulls. And this resolution may be either in the vertical plane or it may be in the horizontal plane. That is, resolution in theta or phi is equal to BWFN, that is bandwidth between the first null divided by 2. And this resolution is approximately equal to half power beamwidth. Resolution in vertical plane or in the horizontal plane is equal to half power beamwidth either in vertical plane or in the horizontal plane. We know that antenna beam area is equal to omega A, and omega A is equal to bandwidth between the first nulls divided by 2 in the vertical plane into bandwidth between the first nulls divided by 2 in the horizontal plane. And now the number of antennas required for a particular resolution is n is equal to 4 pi divided by omega into A, and this omega into A should be in square radians, and we know that d is equal to 4 pi divided by rho A. So then if you compare these two equations, so then we can say that n equal to d. That is, resolution is directly proportional to the directivity. Now let us consider one more parameters, that is antenna impedance. The antenna impedance is given by ZA is equal to RA plus JXA, and as you know that antenna contains both resistive component and the reactive components. So therefore it is taken as RA plus JXA, and the resistive components once again it internally contains RR plus RL, and the reactive components, one is the inductive reactance and another one is the capacitive reactance. Therefore JXA can be replaced by omega LA minus 1 by omega CA. In this, RA, LA and CA are the antenna parameters. RR is the radiation resistance and RL is the loss resistance, and XA equal to omega LA minus 1 by omega CA. And at resonant frequency, we know that capacitive reactance is equal to inductive reactance. Then if omega LA is equal to 1 by omega CA, so then we will get F0 is equal to 1 by 2 pi into root of LA into CA, because we know that omega is equal to 2 pi F. In this equation, if you substitute omega is equal to 2 pi F and simplify it, then you will get F0 is equal to 1 by 2 pi into root of LA into CA, and this is the resonant frequency. Now, so the absolute value of this impedance is given by RA plus RL whole square plus omega LA minus 1 by omega CA whole square under root. And as you know that at resonant frequency, the antenna impedance is minimum and that value is equal to RA, because both the inductive reactance and capacitive reactance are equal and they will get cancelled with each other. That is, at resonant frequency, the resistance is going to be, or at resonant frequency, the antenna impedance is going to be minimum, so that is equal to only the resistive component, that is RA. And this is the equivalent circuit of your antenna when it is resonating. Then at resonant frequency, ZA, that is antenna impedance, is minimum and is equal to RA. So therefore current flowing through the antenna is equal to V divided by ZA. So that is, whatever the current flowing through the antenna is, this is I is equal to V divided by ZA, where ZA is equal to RA plus JXA, and so absolute value of this current flowing through the antenna is V divided by root of RA square plus XK squares. And as at the resonant frequency, so the resistance is to minimum and therefore the current is going to be maximum. Okay, and here we got the maximum current. Now, let us consider the fields from oscillating dipole. Now, to illustrate the operation of an antenna, here a dipole antenna is considered, that is two monopole antenna. This is one monopole antenna and this is one monopole antenna, then it becomes a dipole antenna. Let us see how the antenna radiates. This diagram is showing you at every instant of the time how the signals are radiated from the antenna. Now, at a time t equal to 0, we have a maximum voltage. Now, what you are having here? Then, as the time passes, for example, at time instant t by 8, so whatever the signal which is radiating from the antenna will move away from that particular antenna. So, that is, it is detaching from the antenna. So, this is the signal what you are getting at t by 8. Then, at t by 8, and here we are getting v equal to 0. That means to say that, so one particular signal will be moved away from the antenna, and the second one is started emptying from the antenna. At t equal to 3t by 8, the first wave which is completely detached from the antenna and it is in the space, and the second is started emptying from the antenna. Then at t equal to t by 8 and v is equal to maximum, and here if you observe this, first wave is completely detached from the antenna, and once again the second wave is coming, and this value is equal to maximum. So that means to say that this one and this one if you observe, so both are looking to be same. So therefore, at t is equal to t by 8, we are having a maximum voltage of the second wave, and the first wave is detached from the antenna. And so these fields, what are there? So they are detached field lines, so they are in the space. Now, enhanced view of, so what are the things have been explained here, it has been shown in this. So this is your dipole antenna. So it starts radiating, and this is the first detached field, and this is the second detached field. Like this, so many things are present in this. That is, when an antenna is there, it is radiating both the directions, and this is the detached field and this is the detached field, and this is the detached field and this is the detached fields. Or also you can say that, so what are the fields which have been shown in this diagram? So they are called as a detached field lines. Now, so the same antenna what it has been shown, once again it is done in this particular case. Now, whenever considering the antenna, any antenna, so we are coming across two types of the regions. One is the antenna region, another one is the outer regions. Now, so the antenna region is the one where you are having the electromagnetic fields. The antenna region is having a radius, so that value is equal to L by 2. That is, so whatever this sphere it has been shown, it is having some radius, so that radius is equal to L by 2, where L is the length of this particular antenna. And here, within this antenna region, you are having the electromagnetic field radiated by the antenna. And away from this one, you are having one more region, so that is the outer region. In the outer region, we don't have, so the any electromagnetic field radiated from the antenna. And so this axis is called as a polar axis or the antenna axis, and this horizontal axis is called as equatorial plane or the equatorial axis. And so these are the detached field lines from the antenna. That is, so these lines are once again shown in this. Then, so if you come to this particular diagram, so as I told that antenna contains the regions. Now, if you closely observe, this is the length of the antenna, and the length of the antenna decides the sphere of this antenna. Now, so this is the one which is the boundary sphere. The boundary sphere is the one which separates the antenna regions from the outer regions. And for the antenna is considered, we are having the two fields. One is the far field, another one is the near field. And the far field is called as Fraunhofer region, and the near field is called as a Fresnel-Fraunhofer region. Consider one more term, that is the bandwidth. There is no specific definition for the antenna bandwidth, but we can define it. The range of frequency over which the antenna operates satisfactorily is called as a bandwidth of the antenna. Suppose, for example, suppose if I consider 910 to 940, so this is the range of frequency over which your antenna operates satisfactorily. So then I can say that, so bandwidth of the antenna is equal to 940 minus 910, so this is equal to 30. It may be in kilohertz or it may be in megahertz. And bandwidth of the antenna can be calculated from F0 divided by Q, where Q is the quality factor of the antenna and F0 is the operating frequency of the antenna. So the bandwidth of the antenna can also be calculated by an equation d divided by d, where so this small d is the size of this particular antenna and this capital D is the aperture of this particular antenna.